And we are good to go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to MTAG More Than a Games post-match YouTube live review of the India-England second ODI that has just been concluded at the MCA Stadium in Pune, which England have comprehensively won by 6 wickets by chasing down a score of 337 in just about 40 overs. 43 overs, in fact. So it's so the series now tied at 1-1, and today to discuss this second ODI and the various talking points that we've had in this, we've got Rahul and Harshit joining us for the post match review. So welcome, guys. Welcome to the show. It's a privilege to have you guys on board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So first thing first, let's dive straight into the discussion. And first thing, what we'll discuss with India's batting approach that they took in the first 30-35 overs. I mean, especially and this entire template that India have built over the last few years of starting slow and then building up towards the end. And contrasting that to what England did. I mean, they went about and just started hammering, blasting everyone out of their way. So let's try and discuss this, the entire merit of this approach, and what do you think where it kind of went wrong for India today, especially in the first 35 overs, and how they approach this game. So Harshit, we'll start with you. Your takes on India's batting approach in the first 30-35 overs.
Thank you, Abhinav. It's a pleasure to be here. I think what went wrong for India was the fact that our openers didn't really give them a really good start. Dhawan started slow, and the fact that it took 18 balls to score just 4 runs puts a lot of the pressure on the rest of the batting lineup, especially when you're one batsman short. Technically, we were playing Rishabh Pant today instead of Shreyas Iyer, who is an extra finisher. Shreyas Iyer, still is a more anchor and supporting batsman than Rishabh Pant. You'd not want Rishabh Pant to come in the first 20 overs itself. So, given that, and the fact that Rohit also was unlucky and he went out inside the power play itself, that put a lot of pressure on Kohli and KL to, just drop the anchor and then, kind of what we say in football, just park the bus and play right till the 30th over to try and get to a solid platform and then hopefully unleash the finishers in Pant and Pandya, which they did pretty nicely. But in hindsight, you can say that it was a beaut of a batting track and England just made a mockery of the total. But yeah, they could have gone faster, especially when your finishers can score 130 runs in the last 10 overs. That's 13 runs per over. Surely you can score more than 6 in the first 40. So that could have been 350, 360. And given the mini collapse that just happened towards the end of England innings and that Ben Stokes run out, had it gone in India's favor, it could have been 2-0 for India.
Valid points. Valid points there, Harshit. So now we'll head off to Rahul. What is your take on this entire approach that India took with the bat today in the first 30-35?
Yeah, it's not. It's too slow, and that's the thing. When you compare it to England, it shows that India's approach is no match for England. And India have the batsmen who may not be able to play the way England play, but at least closer. And they're not asking for a lot, but yeah, the approach in the first 30 overs, in the power play and the first 30 it's not good enough, especially when batting first. So if you're chasing, at least they have a target in mind, and that's okay. But if you're defending a total against England, and if you consider the bowling attack, it's not the first choice bowling attack. Have to give more to the bowlers to defend, and yeah, India didn't do that.
Okay, so now we did witness a very good innings from KL Rahul today, who after the horrors of his T20 form, and probably, to make a slightly politically incorrect statement, Rahul performing in anything to do with Narendra Modi is never going to happen. So take him out of Ahmedabad, and he's suddenly grown back into confidence. But jokes aside, a great innings for Rahul. I think it's a confidence booster for him. What is your take on KL Rahul's 100 today, Harshit?
I think the seeds for this knock were sown in the last match itself. He showed a lot of confidence in the last match while he was batting with Kunal out there. And he showed a great deal of maturity as well. The team was struggling at 210 for 5, and then to take them to a match winning total in the last match. That, kind of showed that the KL Rahul of old is back. And today he got a promotion from his usual current number 5. He came out to bat at number 4. The team was in a bit of bother, 40 for 2. Then to play innings like that, at a strike rate of that's like 9,500, it's close to run a ball. It was a pretty heartwarming innings, for a KL Rahul fan to actually see him from making 1-0-0 to actually making 100 in a match. It's a pretty leapfrog moment. So yeah, good days for Indian cricket, but I hope this lasts till the World Cup. He does well in the IPL as well.
Good sentiments there, Harshit. Rahul, what's your take on your namesake's performance today?
Yeah, after the T20 series, it's really nice to see KL do well, and yeah, from he built on the last game and brought it here. And I think if India needed one of Kohli and Rahul to get 100, it would have been Rahul, because he's the one he's been backed by the team, but he needs the scores, and it's good that he got that knock at number 4. Probably this puts pressure on Iyer, is obviously injured, and it's not will not be nice for Iyer to. I mean, obviously from team perspective, it's good, but from a personal standpoint, I think it's unfortunate for him if batsmen performing at number 4 and Pant can play at number 5. Then where does that leave him?
A great point there, Rahul. And I think I think like KL, I think mentioned in his interview, and also in the very fascinating piece that Sid Monga wrote for Cricinfo, that KL, I think he said that in ODIs you get a lot more time to recover, and I think that is just what is happening with him. He's been able to for the slow starts he's been able to recover as the innings has gone on. So I think that's a great thing for India, and a very good thing. And here's the thing: a Rahul in Indian cricket is always meant to be a selfless, adaptable human being. So I think so. I mean, he's going about replicating what his former statement at the great one of the greatest did in ODI cricket, especially. I think it's quite a commendable job. So now let's go to the I think what was the difference maker in England's bowling today was the fact that Moeen Ali was taken only for 47 runs in his 10 overs, and there was just probably a little too much of a respect shown by the Indian batsmen towards him, and that probably kind of swung the way this entire game shaped up for India in the batting innings. What do you think? I mean, how about Moeen Ali's stint with the ball today? I mean, what's your take on it, Harshit?
Not just 47 runs, but if you look at it, the 10 overs, the 60 balls that he bowled, only one of them went for a boundary.
Yes.
That too was a pretty loose delivery, so you can't really give the credit to the batsman as well. So other than that, the fact that Moeen Ali, an off spinner, bowled his entire quota of 10 overs to two right-handers in the middle and went for less than 5. Yeah, it's criminal, especially on a batting track in Pune. And the two best batsmen of the side batting, and you can't even hit a boundary to that guy, not even hit run a ball in the middle overs. That's pretty criminal. That's injustice against the team's batting abilities, and you're taking runs away from a potential total. So you can't really say England was lucky as well that Moeen didn't get hit, but I think India was just too cautious playing Moeen Ali, and that wasn't really required.
I think this comment from Pratyush just sums up the entire approach that we were discussing. At 34.3 overs, India was 173 for 3, and England at the same time was 273 for 1. I think a difference of 100 runs, 2 wickets less, and England being England in ODI cricket. I think that's a great point raised there by Pratyush. And what do you think, Rahul, about Moeen Ali's spell with the ball today? I think the difference maker essentially with how between India and England as far as spinners is concerned.
Yeah, he was, but I think India let him be the difference maker. I don't think Moeen was. I mean, he wasn't that. He was just bowling normally. It's not like a sensational spell. But England probably saw the opportunity to sneak in his overs, and yeah, India sort of played into their hands. And even though eventually India did end up with a good score, could and should have been much more.
That's a good point there, Rahul. And we'll come to to one of the biggest talking points of India's innings today. The man they called Rishabh Pant, recalled into the ODI setup, and he just goes about there. And I think on the wave of confidence that he's riding on, just went about swagger blasting his way to a 77 or 40. What do you think about his innings today, Harshit?
Before I start, there's this stat that I came across on Twitter. His 77 of 40 was struck at a rate of 195. No one in the history of Indian cricket has scored more runs at a better strike rate in an ODI innings.
Wow, that's a good
This
statistical nugget, I think, from
this in
someone.
fact is the fastest ODI innings we've had in India's 1000 ODI history. India's played close to
Okay,
1000, I think. So
okay.
the
Interesting
fact that
statistical nugget.
the fact that Rishabh Pant has shown so much promise in the test setup, the next good thing would be to play him in ODIs, but they instead gave him 5 T20s and they drop him from the first ODI. Yeah, it's pretty nonsensical, I'll say, now that we've lost the match. Otherwise, I would have minced my words. But Rishabh Pant and Hardik Pandya are the only two intent and impact players in the team. The other four batsmen, when they get in the 90s, they'll still be defensive. कि चलो यार knock कर लेते हैं, 100 कर लेते हैं पहले. Rishabh Pant is the only guy who'll try to hit a six in the 90s as well. And this is what like Jonny Bairstow did today as well. You need impact players in white ball performances, because it does really come down to those extra 10 runs in ODIs and extra 5 6 runs in T20s. And Pant and Pandya for me are the only two people who can do that in the death overs. So it's pretty nonsensical why they don't really play him in every white ball match. 5 and 6 are pretty much done for you, and once Jadeja comes in, 5 6 7 are locked for you. It's like God's gift to Indian cricket, but I don't know. Kohli and Shastri don't seem too keen on using it.
You've not minced your words there, Harshit. And there, I mean, Pratyash makes a funny little quip. India made Moeen Ali look like Muhammad Ali. That's a pretty accurate way of summing up what Moeen Ali did with the ball, as we discussed in the previous segment. But Rahul, what do you think? Rishabh Pant's innings today, I mean, innings full of violence and his nonsense at times, mind-boggling hitting today. What do you think about his innings today?
I mean, I couldn't put it better than what how Harshit said. India have 5, 6, 7 locked. I don't understand why it should be a debate. Rishabh Pant should be playing every game. Just the entertainment value is just I think off the charts. And when he can get in, it just makes such a big difference. If we compare to England, England have this kind of intent difference makers and every player except maybe Malan initially, but India only seem to play Hardik and Rishabh, and then even then they want to say, okay, we can do without Rishabh. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. You should keep good value as a keeper too behind the stumps, and yeah, let Rahul focus on his batting. Again, the unfortunate fall guy is Iyer, but Rishabh Pant is what you'll say a generational talent. You can't just leave him on the sidelines.
I think Arjun Sharma just puts it in just the best way possible. Rishabh Pant is insane. We must all say it out loud. I think the world is now saying it out loud. He is probably the most insane thing that India has produced in quite some time. Then a very important question put in by Puneet Shukla. This pitch was one of the flattest decks of all time. To be at 200 after 40 overs was a crime on a deck with what he labels as such a poor bowling unit of England, and he would want to know our opinions on this. So, I mean, Harshit, what do you think? I mean, comes back to our discussion about how India approached this innings, and especially towards the end, the 2 over spell at the death by Reece Topley. What do you think? I mean, Reece Topley spell and this entire and how the team.
I think I think we're all being a little too harsh on this batting order that has two
True.
people who have 10,000 runs, almost 10. Like Rohit has 9,000, Kohli 12,000, Dhawan too has 6,000. So they're pretty experienced players. I think we're being a little too
Yes.
harsh on them, given that we
True.
have the benefit of hindsight and given that England played in a way that no one really does, except
True.
them.
Yes.
So that said, I'd still agree that this is not England's strongest bowling lineup. They did not have Mark Wood, they did not have Jofra Archer, the two who troubled India in the T20 series.
Yes.
And apart from that, Ben Stokes also didn't really bowl much. So given that the Curran brothers were going for 7 and plus runs per over, India could have capitalized a bit more in the middle overs on the two spinners. So I'd agree with Puneet. 40 overs 200 is a bit of a crime. You can't really take much away from it. But again, we're being harsh given that we have the benefit of hindsight. But yeah,
Rahul, what's your take? Because Puneet has followed up with the fact that our batting order is the best of all, is one of the best of all time, but we play with such a conservative approach and that we rarely utilize our skills in batting. What is your entire take to this 4-pronged question that Puneet has put up?
Yeah, he's right. India are always tend to err on the conservative side, which probably works against most teams in the world except England. Maybe except West Indies on their excellent day, but it's probably I mean it's probably shown more, like we've probably caught out more because of England's approach that we contrasted then looks really bad. But I would say 240 overs is, yeah, they should be playing at a faster rate. But also you don't expect England to play like this. It's just a crazy innings. What can you do about it?
True. True. Kaushik Kashyap's very good question. Will Pant's unorthodox batting is Pant's unorthodox batting a concern or it is just extraordinary? Because people never had problems with AB de Villiers, but why is Pant the one who gets to hear so much? Harshit, what's your take? I mean, about Rishabh
I
Pant's
I have a
extraordinariness.
I have a very simple philosophy with Pant and his career. I think his existence is cursed simply because he's an Indian wicketkeeper batsman. He's trying too hard to succeed on the field, and he is succeeding on the field. But the fact is that there's a large majority of fans out there who label themselves as Thala fans. And the fact is that that man really has left huge shoes to fill. So the expectations from Pant are so huge that every time he fails, and failure for him is not getting 250 or not hitting a six or not or dropping a catch. Every time he fails, people really get angry because it is a cursed existence. Expectations are too much, and every time it fails, people get really angry with it. But again, generational talent, like Rahul said, people like him, if they play regularly, they'll win more matches than they'll possibly lose. And we're seeing that in the test scenario, right? He's won us more matches than we could have dreamt of. So yeah, it's just about experience. Yeah, MS Dhoni has 10,000 runs, played 200 ODIs. Pant has not even played 20 ODIs. So give him time. Better batsman than
Uh,
Dhoni for sure.
you couldn't have put it in better words, Harshit. Rahul, what's your take? Because Crick Vidya, one of our good friends, has also said we should leave Pant alone. I think
That's
as simple as that.
that is
Rahul,
simple
what's
as
your
that.
take?
Rohit
Yeah,
Sharma says this in press conferences every time. We should leave Rishabh Pant alone because if he's left on his own, he will win us more matches than he'll ever lose.
True.
I mean,
Rahul, what's your take on
yeah,
Pant?
I mean, he should have been kept alone from the start. But now that he's delivered so many match-winning performances for India in Tests, but he's also made his name in IPL when he's played some crazy knocks for Delhi. So okay, maybe he's not nailed ODI yet, but that's not on him. He's still young. He's still learning. India haven't given him like a consistent long rope. So yeah, people should just leave him alone. We see what he can do, and there's no one in the country who can who can play the way he does. So yeah, just leave him alone. His keeping also is improved. What's not to like?
Well put there, Rahul. Important question put there by Kaushik. Butler said we were successful to restrict India on 336 thoughts, and connected to that, Crick Vidya saying, are we moving towards 370 becoming a safe score? Harshit, what's your take on this on these couple of questions that we've just received? Of
I
Butler
think
saying India.
Butler probably has the luxury of saying this now that he's won the match. But again, I'd agree with him. 350 was definitely on the cards when Rahul and Pant were going, and also a time when Pant and Pandya were going. The Pant dismissal was a bit unlucky. It definitely snatched, I think, 10-15 runs from India's total. But again, it wouldn't have really made a difference, but was because England won the match with 6 overs to spare.
Hmm.
So that would mean if India had possibly made 380, then they could have won the match. But there was no way they could have made 380, even when the batsmen did go all guns blazing in the last 10. They could have at max reached 350, 360, and that wouldn't have been enough today. Not today, maybe in the next match.
Rahul, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean against England, what is a safe score? you know, like what score would you be comfortable with defending against England? I mean, also the caveat is that we have no Bumrah, Jadeja. You know, it's a inexperienced. It's like a young bowling attack. Krunal's second ODI. Prasidh, who bowled well, but is also still learning. Thakur, takes wickets, but he goes for runs. So there's only one economical bowler on the side. What you probably need more than 336 to uh yeah to win. And it's not every England are not going to fail at chases regularly. I'm
Yes.
surprised. To defend a total 3 games in a row, including the T20s, is quite impressive. But if you keep losing the toss, eventually you're going to lose.
Yes, because I think that's what Puneet also said on flat decks. Anything is chaseable considering England's batting order. So we should always look to score above par batting first. Because this is about this Pune deck, he said it had nothing much to offer, and it's these are small grounds. So in modern day ODI cricket, considering how England play, no score is actually safe. Uh, Now we come down to this. We now go back to Kaushik's question with that curse on Pant. Does Virat not scoring a century feel like a kind of a curse? And he personally feels it's quite real, to be honest. Virat, the wait for a century is just keep continuing to increase. Once again, he's fallen to Adil Rashid, ninth time in international cricket. I think he's also Adil's also picked him up for the most number of times. Now I think he has the record for taking his wicket most number of times in international cricket alongside Tim Southee. So what's your entire was this Virat not getting a century for so long? I think it's been close to 1.5 years now. And Adil Rashid having the wood over him constantly. What's your take, Harshit?
It's actually funny he says the word curse because today it's exactly 500 days since Virat last scored a century in November of 2019. And the fact is, it's quite funny. I didn't really want to bring it up, but someone has mentioned it, so I will. A friend sent me this on my WhatsApp. There were a couple of people and a tantric who was arrested in Mumbai because they were doing a yagya to stop Kohli from breaking Sachin's record. Those were Sachin fans who organized a yagya. So the police did arrest them up. This happened in February. So yeah, we've seen
Oh my
a lot of
God,
Virat innings since then. But
that
it's
that's
not just
funny.
Adil Rashid who's getting him out. It's pretty much any leg spinner around the
Leg
world
spinner,
who
yes.
it's
Adam Zampa as
pretty
well.
much
I think.
any leg spinner who plays for national side and can bowl to Virat Kohli can keep his length off. He has a more than fair chance of getting Kohli out at some stage in the match. So I have a very interesting theory about this. I think Kohli doesn't play leg spinners much in practice. He just has Chahal, whom he plays in RCB and whom he plays in the Indian camp. Other
True.
Indian players get to play a lot of Indian leg spinners around the country in the IPL
Yes.
and in the national setup. So KL Rahul has Bishnoi and Murugan Ashwin in his team. Uh, Rohit Sharma has Chahar and the others. So other players get the benefit of practicing against more quality leg spinners. but Kohli isn't really getting that much game time. So he keeps getting out to, in the ODI series against Australia, he kept getting out to Zampa, and yeah, that's something they'll just correct. He's too good a player to get out to become a bunny to these sort of guys. So eventually it will come. The 71st ton will come eventually. It'll come this year only. I'm pretty hopeful about it. And yeah, let's just hope. The next match could be
Uh,
it.
Hopefully that will be the case. Rahul, what's your take? Adil Rashid constantly having the wood on him, on Kohli, and the wait for the 71st century just elongating even longer.
Yeah, I mean, Rashid technically got him out twice today. Butler dropped him. I thought, I thought, okay, maybe the curse is broken, but then no. Yeah, he's getting the 50s. This is his fourth
Yes,
consecutive ODI 50. He got
yes,
50s in the T20 series. He got in Australia also. He hit a few. So
yes.
it's not that I would not, he's not out of form. It's just that he
Hmm.
has like quite high standards. And if it is any other player, like scaled out getting these sort of consistent 50s, we'd all be like, wow, he's consistent. He's doing the job for India. But with Kohli, naturally, we have high expectations that he's a class player. So, but he said in the post match conference, he doesn't play for hundreds. So eventually it'll come, and it's probably better uh, than for him to slow down and play for 100. Like I always think back to when Sachin got his 100th 100.
Yes.
He's really slowed down, and eventually we did lose that game. So
Yeah.
I think
I think some.
Kohli would hate for for himself to do that, lose the
Yeah.
game. And yeah, so eventually it'll come. Hopefully this year in England.
I think you're right. I think it's sometimes it plays on. I mean, the stretch that you when you've not been able to score hundreds for long, sometimes it plays on you psychologically as well. And the moment you feel you're approaching close to it, you're bound to sometimes slow down to just try and get to it as soon as you can. Towards that, I think Arjun Sharma's comment: Kohli is going to score his 71st century this Holi. And I don't know what how to go about it in the second half. But yeah, I
I
mean that's
I
quite
just
there. I
like
mean,
to I just like to say is this the fact that Kohli does have 40 plus ODI hundreds and 12,000 runs is what we expect of him. If you take that away, he still has 50 plus scores in the last four matches that he's played in this format. If it wasn't Kohli and any other batsman, that guy would have had his dream run so far.
true.
But it's just that you set the benchmark so high that every time you don't cross it, it's considered as a failure, no matter how many runs you score, anything less than 100.
Absolutely, absolutely, you're right. I mean, Kaushik Kashyap's been quite eager today. He's saying Thala fans should enjoy that the fact that MSD changed the thinking about being a wicketkeeper batsman in India, and MS's journey inspired wicketkeepers like Pant, and that is why we've got so many more options today in the form of Ishan Kishan. There's Sanju Samson. There's a KS Bharat. There's a Vishnu Vinod and Azharuddin in the domestic circuit. So I mean, it's a good point raised there, and hopefully that's the fact that he's been able to be so consistent. And Arjun Sharma again, a very important question there. It's let me give you a comparison. If you look at the skill factor, Rishabh Pant is easily the best keeper batsman India has ever produced. It's always about him translating into a meaningful performance. So I think we've answered that, and we're I think that he's starting to showcase the true range of the talent that this man that he has. So let's go down to England's chase, and specifically about how Kuldeep Yadav's confidence just it looked like a broken man, and it looked so sad to watch him. Bowl. I mean, I don't want to. You'd not want to sound terrible, distasteful towards him, but he bowled like a goose and without a heart, probably. What do you think about it? Harshit, what's your take on Kuldeep Yadav's bowling performance? Because Pratyush has asked, can Kuldeep even make it to a KKR 11? And there are quite a few questions related to Kuldeep. Because Crick Vidya has also asked, should Kuldeep be sent back to domestic cricket to work on his bowling? Because he, on this rate, he doesn't even look likely to make it to KKR's first choice 11. So thoughts on Kuldeep Yadav's uh,
Well,
bowling performance today?
I do agree with, quick with the other person that sent it. I don't think Kuldeep will make KKR's first 11. They already have Sunil Narine, whom they won't drop. He's a fantastic spinner. He has been in the IPL for so long. He's a double MVP. And then they have Varun Chakravarti, who was their leading wicket taker in the last tournament, and also the tournament's sole fifer, no, sole player to take a fifer. So also I think even though Dinesh Karthik is not really captain anymore, I think he has more trust in his state player Chakravarti than he does in Kuldeep Yadav. So I think that is a big factor. So Kuldeep Yadav definitely won't make KKR's playing 11. If it does happen, then they manage to play on really spin tracks in Ahmedabad or Chennai maybe, then they might consider playing three spinners. But then it's really a long shot. I don't think so. But there's not really domestic cricket happening. At the time when the IPL happens, there's no domestic cricket. So Kuldeep Yadav can't really, just hop on a plane and get out of. He can get out of the country. Maybe he can play in England or elsewhere if the BC allows to in the One Day Cup or in other domestic tournaments abroad. But there's not really tournaments happening in India when the IPL happens. The other thing is Kuldeep Yadav was looked good till the first half today. He was bowling pretty well right about his fifth, sixth over. But then once England got the feel that okay, we can't really lose from here, we're in a pretty good solid position. Then they, thought like let's just kill the chase right here and now. So they decided to go after Kunal and Kuldeep in that little 4 over period between 30 and 35th over, where they managed to score 90 runs in 5 overs. So I think that spoiled the figures for Kuldeep and Kunal. Other than this, I think Kuldeep confidence is one thing, but Kuldeep really doesn't have a grip on his stock balls anymore. Like he just
Hmm.
bowls them quicker rather than allowing the ball to turn, which is his specialty. He just tries to get through his overs quickly. He'll bowl four good balls, which he did in the first half, but then he'll go for an odd boundary and then just completely shatter all the hard work that's been done in the first half of the over. So
Yeah.
he'll just come with match experience and maybe domestic cricket. He has to go back and play for UP. I don't think he's going to play the third ODI as well. I don't think he's going to make the KKR 11 as well. So if I were Kuldeep Yadav, I'd play for UP as much as I can.
Great point made there, Harshit. And we'll come to you, Rahul, and also take this comment from Arjun Sharma. Kuldeep needs to be left out of international cricket for some time for his own sake, and I think unfortunately he seems to be right. What's your take on Kuldeep Yadav's performance today?
Yeah, I mean, he did start off well, he was bowling well, and then like Harshit said, eventually, I think maybe he got one too many overs in the spell, and I think maybe that's the thing, with five bowlers, you're limiting yourself, and you can't really manage your bowler's confidence. And yeah, it's quite sad to see the body language, quite like defeated because he was trying everything. He's putting a lot of effort. You could hear him, grunting. He's trying to bowl faster and faster and faster, and he's getting hit. It's when leg spinners get hit, they get hit really bad, and it's what can you say? I think he really needs to get back to domestic. Obviously, there is no domestic, but he can go back home. Get out of the bubble after the IPL. He's been in
Hmm.
he's been in the bubble for quite some time, not getting regular games, which must also not help confidence. So just get back, refocus, take some time out, and he still has so much time left in his career. I think it will be best served. I mean, it may even be better served to take a break from the IPL, but it's okay. He can remain in the setup. He won't play for KKR. I really don't think he'll play much for KKR, but I think for his sake, India should look at the bigger picture. Let him rest. Let him rest for the third ODI as well. Take let him stay away from the limelight. It only serve him well.
I think you're quite right, and that's where Shanmugraj Muthuviran's question comment comes in. Would expect Harbhajan Singh to help out Kuldeep Yadav at KKR. I don't know how much that'll be. I think that might be of help because I think Harbhajan is an experienced player in his own right, and he's seen a lot of the highs and lows of international cricket. So I think somewhere somebody like Harbhajan being at KKR might just be of help to Kuldeep, because he can now take to somebody who can speak down to him, and just be able to mentor him a bit. So that's there. And Kaushik's question: was it a bad day with the outing with the ball, or 91 runs in 5 overs happen? Or does 95 runs in 5 overs happen on a bad day? Referring to the 5 over spell of Krunal Pandya and Kuldeep Yadav that happened, which where England, I think, won the game. In what's your take? Harshit will take your point on this.
You can call it a bad day, but it doesn't really happen, again and again. In this is professional sports, so you can pretty much take this into account that this won't happen again in the next match unless they make the
Hmm.
same mistakes, which they probably won't because they are professionals after all. 91 and 5 overs again. You have to give credit where it's due, and the credit should be
Yes.
that this was an excellent batting performance.
Yes.
Kunal Pandya is playing just his second match, and Kuldeep Yadav is, down in the dumps if confidence
Hmm.
and form is considered. So you can't really expect much from them in the first place. But again, pretty bad figures. But you got to give credit to the Stokes and Bairstow partnership that really, just broke the accelerator pedal and just took England home.
Rahul, what's your take on this?
Yeah, it's not like, I mean, didn't bowl that well, but again, it's one of those outlier days. It happens that England are capable of these kind of games. When they can just go all out and really blitz you. Probably the India could have gone to to a pacer, try and break the flow, but again, what can you do? It's just the Stokes, that batting from Stokes is just incredible to watch, and even as an Indian supporter, you just wow, it's great sport, and you can't really have complaints about yeah.
Good, a good point there, Rahul. And I think that also boils down to how, I mean, slightly iffy Kohli's captaincy was on the field today, and that's where the question from not only Pratyush comes in, that Hardik didn't even bowl a single over today, which is a surprise, and Kaushik saying that Hardik not bowling due to workload management, and Virat mentioning this about the Test series in England. Thoughts about it? No, Hardik not even bowling a single over, despite the fact that he was that the spinners were getting pumped around the field for fun. What do you think? I mean, Kohli's captaincy tactics today, and Hardik not bowling even a single over with the ball. Arshit, we'll take you
That
on first.
that just shows me that Kohli accepted defeat long before it actually happened. When there
True.
was still 60, 70 runs to get, he did accept defeat already. Because the thing with Hardik Pandya is in the IPL as well, he plays for Mumbai Indians, which already have a lot of bowling options. If you tell them that don't bowl, if BCCI gives direct instructions that don't over bowl Hardik, we need him for the Test series next. Don't They won't bowl him. Like it's not that Hardik is a key bowler for Mumbai or anything of the sort. He's more of a
True.
batsman to them than bowler. And him not even trying even a couple of overs by Hardik just to keep Kunal out of the attack line or keep Kuldeep out of the attack line. It's pretty disheartening as a from a person who has enough captaincy experience now. So this just shows that he had already accepted defeat in his mind, and he was just going through the motions, trying to wait for the end when it comes.
A good point there made, Harshit. I think it's a pretty valid statement. Rahul, your take. Kohli's captaincy today on the field and not giving a single over to Hardik Pandya, slightly strange. What's your take?
Yeah, the captaincy was a bit strange. I didn't understand why he gave Kuldeep a 10th over when clearly the game's not going to probably even a 46, 47 overs, so you might as well just bowl your frontline pacers and at least try and get a few wickets. 4 wicket loss doesn't look as bad as a 6, 7 wicket loss. And as for yeah, he did talk about the workload management, which I guess I understand it. They do need him to, especially for the England Test series. Uh, his bowling will also be needed. He'll provide that better balance. So I can understand it, but he was bowling 4 overs every 2 days in the T20s, so um, it doesn't add up. If, why can't you give him say 1 or 2 overs just to break the spell? Maybe golden arm, he'll make a breakthrough. But
Exactly.
that doesn't add up. If they weren't bowling, if they weren't giving him 4 overs in the T20s, then I understand it. But those games every 2 days, and he was bowling four, so I don't get it.
So I think that's a pretty fair point you've made there, Rahul. I think then there's a question from Krikvidya again, and he is talking about Krunal Pandya. That he says Krunal doesn't seem to be a good enough ODI bowler. Seems more like a bowler who can contain rather than pick wickets. Useful for T20s, less useful in ODIs. Your views, Harshit? What do you think, Krunal? Because he did get pumped around very badly today. 6 overs for 72.
Yeah, I am of the opinion that Kunal Pandya shouldn't have made his debut in the first place
Okay.
because I don't
Okay.
consider him worthy of an India cap. He doesn't really have the skills. I'd agree with the guy. The fact that he had an excellent debut with the bat doesn't really prove anything. He doesn't really have those stats, and he's more of a T20 blower. I definitely have in my T20 team as a second choice to Jadeja or another left arm option in my attack. But ODIs, it's just surprising that he made his debut actually ahead of Washington Sundar, and even I'd have played Akshay Patel once, but I really don't understand why they play Kunal Pandya. He's not anything magical or special that he creates, and he doesn't even contain guns. He went for 70 in 5 overs. That's not containing. That's just taking the match and giving it to the opposition along with a few sweets as well. So I don't consider Kunal Pandya as an ODI player. It's a fluke that the series is even happening.
Very frank views there, Harshit. I think, and we appreciate frank views there on our stream. Rahul, what's your take?
Yeah. See, if memory serves me right, he didn't have a great IPL. So
Hmm.
that's why I
He
was
Yes.
did not.
surprised. Yeah. So I was why surprised he's um being drafted in as a fifth bowler. So it's not even as a sixth or seventh option. I don't mind because he provides that value with the bat. But to
Yes.
trust him with 10 overs is a big ask. If
Yes.
you look at the composition of the rest of the attack, is also not like it's not doesn't fill you with a lot of confidence given
Yes.
the inexperience. So yeah, I mean, like, okay, Shanmugaraj says he had a good Vijay Hazare Trophy, but yeah, I still don't think I was a bit surprised.
I think he
Kunal.
had a. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
just to add to counter Shanmugaj. I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing her name wrong. I'm really sorry. I'm really bad with names.
Shanmugraj.
Shanmugaj's point, the fact that Kunal had a good VHT, which is our trophy with the bat. He just scored 200s in 5 matches, but India doesn't really need that many batsmen. We have a pretty decent top four, and then Pant and Pandya as well. So to pick your fifth bowler because he's a good batsman, that's pretty bad tactics. Because his primary goal should be to bowl 10 overs than to face 20 balls and strike at 130, 140 to give you 30, 40 guns in 20 balls. That is just not his goal. That his goal is to bowl 10 overs on a good day and take a wicket or two if he can, but contain guns. Kunal Pandey doesn't stand on those metrics as far as bowling is concerned, especially in ODIs. So if you're picking him for his batting form, then you're bound to lose. And we should have lost the first match itself. But again, fluke. Fluke is what you want.
I think Arnab Bhattacharya doesn't exactly agree with you. I think he says one bad day doesn't make him a fluke. What about his domestic performances? I think we've discussed that. Another comment on Virat's slightly iffy captaincy, that Virat bringing in Kuldeep and Krunal after 2 wickets after that Prasidh took in 2 wickets in Prasidh's over was ridiculous. I think Harshit's point that he already had taken defeat, Kohli had accepted defeat in his mind. I think that also answers the point. Then I think let's come down to this the way Johnny Bairstow and Ben Stokes performed today. I think that partnership, I think, was the game-breaking partnership between the two, and not to forget the important cameo that Liam Livingston played on his ODI debut towards the end. What do you think about the partnership that Bairstow and Stokes had, and Livingstone's cameo towards the end? Harshit, your views.
I am really sorry for this, but I think more credit should be given to how Jason Roy batted at the top of the
Point.
order. I think Jason
Yes,
Roy and
yes,
Jonny Bairstow are the best opening pair in the world in ODIs currently, and even as records and stat books goes, they're gonna make it to the top pretty soon. I was just reading
yes,
this.
absolutely.
They have 1300 plus partnerships in 43 innings together. That's
Yes,
one century partnership in every three matches.
Crazy.
yes.
And plus, they are the most successful ODI pair as far as run rate and averages go. So they average
Hmm.
65 together and they score at 7 plus runs.
Yes,
To put that
yes,
into perspective, they score 65 runs in the power play and they don't get out. So they give you a
yes,
foundation, they give you a very solid foundation, more than what India can have. Rohit and Dhawan average 45. So that's 20 runs more already in terms of stats, in terms of numbers that Bairstow and Roy provide to England than what India gets from their openers. So I think Bairstow and Roy is a pretty underrated and underappreciated opening pair in world cricket at the
yes.
moment,
Completely
and
agree.
they were a pretty important cog in the wheel which won the which won the ODI World Cup. That apart from the
Absolutely.
fact the promotion for Stokes, I was pretty apprehensive of it. I thought there would be another collapse if Stokes got out at that moment, but credit to him, he played really good. He was looking attacking from the first ball. Trying to make those huge slogs from Kuldeep and Kunal. So I did think at that moment that if he gets out, there might be another collapse on the cards, and then in the English lineup would again be joked all around the world. But it didn't happen. So I'm really sad he got out on 99. I think Ben Stokes is a really good ODI player, not as good in T20s, but in ODIs and Tests, he's a pretty fantastic batsman. So
Rahul,
I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with this English win. I mean, it's not surprising that they won.
uh,
It's not surprising as the media makes it look.
Rahul, what's your take on the Bairstow Roy and the Bairstow Stokes partnership, and the cameo that Liam Livingston played towards the end on debut in a very tricky position? Your views?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Roy's innings will get overlooked, but in the power play, he did take a lot more of the strike, and he was getting the boundaries, which I mean, I don't think England had a great power play by their standards. I mean, and their
Hmm.
standards like an 80 for Nolas. They still got 60, which shows, India's bad power play is a 20 for 3 or a 30 for 2 kind of thing. Yeah, it does show,
Yes.
the levels. It's can't even compare. So, yeah, set up a foundation. And I think with this India side, they are made a habit of coming back. So even 30 overs, we thought, okay, a collapse could happen, but they just took the game away. And the way they took the game, like I said, I think earlier, you, you can't have like you can't feel sad losing to this sort of team. They are the best team in the world for a reason. I think a
Yes.
lot of people think that, oh, they won the World Cup final, as a tie, blah blah, but they still deserved it on the basis of the progress they made in the 4 years.
Yes.
They were the best ODI side in that cycle, and can't even think, India nowhere can't really compare. So it's sad to say, but in terms of approaches, you can't really compare India's to England.
Point. I
I
think.
think
Just to
it is that World Cup result that people think, oh, it's a fluke. They're not that good,
yeah,
but they have been good. If you watch like
Yes.
consistently, yeah,
just to add on to what Rahul said, I think it's pretty fair. Most people don't give credit to England because they think that they won by a rule that doesn't make sense, and it of course has been scrapped now. But the hard work and the kind of cricket that they played over the 4 years, ever since the 15 World Cup ended, where they were thrown out by a relatively weak Bangladeshi side, and then to go
Yes.
on to win the finals at your home, the hard work that went in the fact that in the 4 years, England team played the most ODIs, yes, because they
Hmm.
wanted to win it. but they also registered the most 300 plus totals. Far,
Yes.
and their proportion was also quite high. So Owen Morgan, to his credit, has revolutionized cricket not just in England and not just how England plays it, but he's also, given a sort of blueprint and a layout as to how ODI cricket should be played all around the world. So the fact that India hasn't learned or hasn't picked up on those tactics from a world champion side and still continues to play conservative cricket and just piles up pressure on itself, especially in a series which doesn't even matter. Virat was
Hmm.
talking about dynamic batting and more aggressive batting in the T20 series. He should have talked about that in the ODI because now is the time to experiment, right? You have the next World Cup in 2023. That's still 2 years
Yes.
away. So now is all the time that you have to experiment all the kind of players you want and all the kind of techniques you want, all the kind of strategies that you want to employ. Why can't you
Yes.
just tell Rohit and Dhawan that we don't expect much from you? We have a pretty strong batting lineup. We just want 60 runs in the first 10 overs. And then one of you, if you stay till the end, you can bat till the end. But we need 60 runs in the first 10 overs.
Yes.
And
I think
India,
that's yeah. I think that's where also the question from Khurram Aziz comes in. Very pertinent one. They are the world number. England is the world number one team for a reason, but unfortunately, India aren't willing to adapt. Even 70% of this due to stat padding at times. I think somewhere he's made a very valid point today. I think about especially the way India's how England approached their one-day cricket. I think it's just too good. I think you've got to give them credit. And a word on Liam Livingston, guys, because coming in on ODI debut
you,
and then
Abhinav, you seem to be a
scoring,
really big Liam Livingston fan here. I'd
I
not call it
actually
a
like,
cameo. I'd not call it a cameo because when he came in, the required run rate was just 4 runs. Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah, I think Liam Livingston is a pretty fantastic batsman. He's been in form as well. So I'll give him credit to the fact that he did not get out and it did take his side to the victory. So, but other than that, he didn't really get much to do. Yeah.
true. I think
And
and
coming to
also yeah,
Kugam's
yeah,
question, stat padding, according to me, in my belief, the fact is there's a basic difference between the English setup and the Indian setup. You can
hmm,
consider KL Rahul and Jonny Bairstow. Both have had a pretty, below average tour before the ODI series. KL
hmm,
Rahul was really bad in the T20 series. Jonny Bairstow was really bad in the tests. Both were in fear of losing their spots and did lose their spot eventually. But the fact is that Jonny Bairstow can still go on to play fearlessly and strike at more than 100 before scoring a 50, whereas KL Rahul has to be more cautious and more defensive because he has to get those runs not just for his country but also for himself, just to make himself more sure of the spot in the side. So
hmm.
India gets rid of its players too quickly simply because we have the talent at hand and we have, as Virat did in the last match, we have at least 2 or 3 players for every spot. So we can go through players pretty much at will. That is why KL Rahul had to play slow. And that
Uh,
is the reason, Johnny, English team doesn't really go through. That is the reason Joe Root can't find a spot back in the ODI team, let alone the T20 team, because
ODI,
the
he's a. I
team,
think ODI. I think he's a definitive presence at number
yeah,
three.
yeah,
I think
he's
he's
a definitive,
skipping.
but again,
But
I'm just
I
saying
think the
that
T20 he doesn't find a spot at all. I don't think they've moved
no,
past him on the
they won't take
T20.
him. His chance could have come had he played the IPL and had an excellent IPL. But the fact that he chose to not play
Hmm.
not put himself in the auction doesn't really take him to the World Cup as well. But
Yeah,
again,
you're
coming to the
right.
fact, I think English players are more assured of their spot in the playing 11 than someone like a KL Rahul, who has pretty much
Yes.
better stats than all the English players combined. But again, such is the dynamics of the country setups that you have to be selfish a bit.
You're right. You're quite right, and I think Kaushik Kashyap's question is point as well. England has made more 300 plus scores since
Yeah, yeah,
2015
yeah.
to 2019. Then I think again, I think extension of what Harshit said quite rightly. And what's your take on Khurram's question there, Rahul? I think I think we've not heard from you on this.
yeah, no, I agree with Kuram. It is unfortunate, and it's pretty interesting that the top two ODI countries teams in the world have two completely opposing strategies to ODI cricket. But I just
Hmm.
feel England have conviction in their strategy. They back themselves. Okay, they had one collapse, but Morgan said we would rather lose like this than play conservative. And to be fair to them, they continued with it today. We think with India, if they play fair play attacking and lose one game, the whole country will criticize them and they'll just go back into their shell and they'll go to what they know best. And I think there was one point, that India should be using ODIs to experiment, which is true.
Yes, I think Harshit
Uh,
mentioned yes.
this it's a ODI Super League has no relevance to India. So
Yes,
No, not really.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
so like
We're host countries, we're already qualified, so we can, we have the luxury to try and lose as many matches so that we can win the more important ones when the tournament comes.
I think
Yes.
this is the dynamic of the media and the fans that uh, India really can't afford to sacrifice a bunch of series to prepare long term because they're just going to get hammered. That's what I feel at least.
I think there's been a very interesting discussion, at least on this point. Then I think I think the one decision that probably has made a lot of become a major talking point today, and that's where Kaushik Kashyap's question thoughts on the man of the match, Anil Chaudhary, who was the third umpire, and the decision which kind of decided the match, the LBW referral of Rishabh Pant, which he did got in his favor, but at the same time didn't get the four that he could have should have been given. What's your thought on this entire this very bizarre umpiring call, and do you think it needs to be changed, considering that we already had one rule change because of a because of a after a World Cup final? I think. Do you think this rule, what happened today, needs to be amended in the rule books? Harshit, what do you think?
A lot of these rules, especially for the limited overs, ICC should just have a panel discussion taking us fans in and just vote on them. We have much better judges here because a lot of those rules don't even make sense. A friend of mine, when the Rishabh Pant 4 thing happened, the LBW appeal, he just said कि यार ये तो बहुत easy है. If there is a super over in an international match going on, all that the bowling side has to do if they're defending is just bowl on the pads, hopeful that the batsman doesn't hint it, and if it does go for a four, all they have to do is just take a review. And once you take the review, the four would be cancelled, right? That is what the
Yes.
essence of the law is, and then they'll win the
Yes.
match.
Yes.
Then the next day there'll be enough discussions about spirit of the game and whatnot, and hopefully that will bring enough limelight to change this rule. But again, coming to the umpiring, if I take this match alone, apart from the not considering the tour, the Test series or the T20 series, because there were debacles in those as well,
Hmm.
I think the umpires are overcompensating for the fact that this tour is being played with just home umpires. So they've
Yes.
overcompen. Maybe they're doing it of their own volition, or they've been given explicit instructions as such. I don't want to go there, but they seem to be overcompensating to England a lot because there aren't any neutral umpires in the scene. It happened in the tests a lot, and the T20 series was a completely different scenario with Surya Kumar Yadav's catch as well. So yeah, maybe not Anil Chaudhary,
Uh,
but definitely those are bad days for Virendra Sharma. I see him in a BCCI corporate league 2 months from here, umpiring,
oh,
far away.
that's quite
It's pretty
a
sad. Yeah,
very very
that Sky catch is the first time I missed Dhoni in 2 years. Yeah, because had it not been Kohli and it been Dhoni, he would have stormed on the field like he did for CSK. Yeah. And we deserve a captain who stands for his players. Yeah, not just who sits at the boundary, doesn't even captain and just says "Ye kya ho gaya?" Yeah. He should at least go and storm to the field. Yeah. That is ODI cricket. That is T20 cricket. Should be masala in action. What can we
What's
do?
your take on the very very brutal and very very frank there, Harshit? What's your take on that entire bizarre sequence of umpiring there, Rahul?
Yeah, I mean with the 4 runs, that's not on the umpires because that's the law. It's okay, a flawed law, I suppose. But initially when it happened, I was also like, how can not be a four? But then you think about when the umpires give it out, the fielders, you don't go to field the ball because the ball is dead. So
Yes.
is it unfair on the bowling side that they stop fielding naturally, the wickets given, and then you reverse it and then you give it a four. So I think it's unfair for either side. I don't know how many LBW decisions do go do end up going for four, uh, like this particular scenario. But yeah, it would be unfortunate to lose. If it happens in a World Cup final, it will be. I would not. I would love to see it as long as India are not part of the whole. That yeah.
I
As for
think
the
because if India becomes a part of it, I think it'll just the noises will just get amplified even further. I think you're right over there,
yeah,
Rahul.
I mean
And
the same.
Khurram's yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
I mean for the
You
same reason,
continue.
I'm happy India didn't lose the World Cup final like New Zealand did, because I think it's just the Twitter, India will just explode.
Yeah.
As for
Uh,
yeah, as for
yeah,
the
Khurram's actually built up on his question, previous question, and maybe you need coaches in domestic setup who would rather encourage to have batsmen to have a average of 40 and 100 plus and a strike rate of 100 rather than going for a 55 average and a 80-85 strike rate, which and he says obviously you do need anchors, but you need anchor batsmen, but you do not need two or three of them in one team. I think very interesting point there by Khurram, and very interesting question put in by Kaushik Kashyap. One of his, he's been quite enthusiastic about this about the discussion today. In terms of experiments, how do you see Virat's role as a captain to establish what you guys are talking about? As I think he's arrived at that stage in his captaincy where he needs to think about his transition, about the transitions, and he's followed it up. And he did mention about transition plans during the test series. What do you think? I mean, how do you see Virat's captaincy now, especially considering that he is starting to approach this point of a transition, that there's a guard that a change of guards that has to happen very soon in Indian cricket now. What do you think? Harshit, we'll take you on first.
I'll come to this Kaushik question in a bit, but what Khurram commented about coaches and domestic setup. Sorry, Khurram, but I really don't think India needs to give any sort of instructions to the domestic setup. Our domestic setup is in good hands. People need to score as many runs as they can. They need to stat pad as much as they can in the domestic tournaments, because only then can they be brought to limelight. If they can do both of these
Point.
things as Prithvi Shaw and Devdutt Padikkal did, both of them averaged 100 plus strike rate also, 100 plus. Prithvi Shaw in fact had a strike rate of 130, 140 if I remember correctly.
Yes.
That can bring them more into the limelight, but our domestic setups are such that there are so many players, you need to score as many runs as possible. So you need to score
Yes.
averages more than strike rate. Once you get selected for the, rather than coaches doing this, the BCCI setup at the A level and the other junior teams, you can tell them then that we don't expect quick runs from you. We don't expect a lot of runs from you, but we expect quick runs. But you shouldn't
Hmm.
change anything with the domestic setup as it is currently. You need to let them make as many runs as they can, because that is what is the first requirement for an India call. You need to have an
Uh,
excellent season. Even a good season in a country like India, you doesn't get anything done. Jalat Saxena has a lot of good seasons, but he isn't getting calls. You need to have an excellent and out of the box, out of the skin, kind of a season where you make headlines day after day.
I mean, I have to just
I think
add to
you're
that.
right.
And then to
Yeah,
the
no,
Kaushik question,
yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think
I'll
it's
go to
time for
Kaushik's
transitions. Yeah,
question now.
he's just 32 years old, right? Virat Kohli is still 32. In fact, he's in his 32nd year. So it still
Yes.
has probably transition in terms of team, like what Dhoni had to face with all the seniors retiring at a similar point, like Sachin, Lakshman, Dravid, Sehwag, all going at in a space of like 12, 18 months. That will come in the next 3, 4 years. So definitely he has the luxury of the 23 World Cup.
Yes,
I
I
don't see
think I
both
think he's
Rohit
referring to the overall squad
captaincy.
transition, and how he has to and how does his presence now
Yeah, first
fit in
things
there.
first. I don't think he's going to give up captaincy in any format. He can give it up in
I think so.
T20s
Yes,
post the World Cup, but he's going to captain 23 World Cup for sure in India. It's his
definitely.
dream and it's personal milestone for any cricketer who plays for India.
Hmm.
Come to transition part, so the players in the team currently are young enough. I don't see both Rohit and Dhawan playing the 23 World Cup. One of them will definitely retire, and in my mind, I think it will be Dhawan first. So India needs to have a backup opener and needs to try them in the next few ODI series that they schedule in the couple of years upcoming. It will be great if KL Rahul can open, but then they'll need a solid number four. India's problem in 19 World Cup was they did not have a number four, and again, an entire World Cup has gone. There's been 2 years since then, but India hasn't solved a lot of its issues that it faced in the run up to the 19 World Cup, and in fact, in the tournament itself. It doesn't have a sixth bowling option even today. It doesn't have a solid number four,
Yes.
and it doesn't have finishes as well. Once ever since Dhoni has retired, Pant did well today, but there's no guarantee he's going to play again once, maybe Shreyas Iyer comes back or once Jadeja comes back. So it's a lot of gambling going on with the prospect of a World Cup win. But I really do hope that the management has plans for transitions, especially in the batting department, because our bowlers are certainly young. Jadeja, Bumrah, Bobby, they're all 30, less than 30 guys, so won't need much changes in the bowling lineup.
Rahul, what's your take? I mean, what do you think about Virat's role as captain now, especially considering that there could be a transition happening very, very soon, that of him and him being at the forefront, that he'll have to guide through a new bunch of players coming in to replace what is a possible old guard of Rohit, Shikhar, and all these people in the side. What do you think his role, about how his role in the scene has to be there now?
Um, I think I think if there's any transition, it will be at the top of the order. Uh, uh, Dhawan, Rohit, and Kohli have been the top three, for 7-8 years now, and India are reliant on that. So if there's any transition, it has to be to reduce the reliance on the top three. But I also don't think his he'll be give up captaincy. I feel he'll retire as a captain. I mean,
Hmm.
Dhoni obviously staggered it, but he was a keeper as well, and it was a lot of it's like quite a bit of workload on him to captain and keep all three formats. Kohli doesn't have that extra responsibility, and so yeah, I think any transition right now, if you're building towards the 2023 World Cup, this will more or less be the 11. At least that's what I feel, unless because Rohit Sharma will stay. Um, so if anyone's role is at risk, it's Shikhar Dhawan, and
Hmm.
yeah, he'd probably be in and out of the squad. He'd probably get moved on after the World Cup. That's what I feel. I just wanted to add one point about the Kuram's question. Like someone
Yes,
like Sanju
please do.
Samson, who
Hmm.
who can be that average of 40 strike rate of 100 guy, got ditched by India without much. They could have given him a longer run at home. They didn't. So
Hmm.
that sort of example is why you don't blame players in domestic for playing for average and playing for themselves. There's so many good players in India. You have to get runs in order to be noticed. Unfortunately, that's how it is.
So I think, and I think Khurram's followed up with this question, saying that with the World Cup in India, and you will be needing a sixth bowler for sure. So how do you see India's bowling combinations evolving heading into the 2023 World Cup? Rahul, I'll take you on for this first. I think you.
Um, Guy, I think it's still quite early to look at World Cup in 2023. Unfortunately, I feel um, we just had hope that they don't overlook the World Cup in planning for the T20 World Cups, because there's one more next year, and
Yes.
that may be the worry that that gets overlooked. But I mean, I think Hardik is probably the sixth bowler eventually. Once he's already on the path to becoming consistent 6-7 over a game, so he's probably that option. But yeah, the concern is that if there's no Hardik, what do you do? There's no other solid pace bowling all rounder in the Indian setup.
I think you're right. Harshit, what's your opinion on this? That we would be needing a six bowling option for sure, a good six bowling option. So, how does our combination head coming into the 2023 ODI World Cup? What's your take on this?
Yeah,
Harshit, I think you're on mute.
six. Yeah, yeah. I think I'm of the opinion that in ODIs you need at least seven bowling options. Six
Yes.
is still too less. Six works in T20s, but in ODIs I'm a follower of the Dhoni sort of template, which says Yuvraj. There should be players like Yuvraj and Raina who can each bowl as a 5 and 5 kind of a bowling lineup, apart from the five specialist bowlers. So you need to have at least seven bowling options. MS had that luxury, given that even Sehwag used to roll his arm over, and even Sachin used to roll his arm over in his heydays. And this Indian team, no one really, bowls in the top order. Neither Rohit, nor Dhawan, nor Kohli, nor KL, not even Iyer. Pant is a
Hmm.
wicket-keeper batsman. So I still think Ravichandran Ashwin has a lot to give in terms of white ball. So I think he will make a comeback in the 2023 World Cup. At least he will be in the squad, given the fact that it will be played in India. So experience plus the spin factor, plus the fact that Kuldeep, Chahal, and all the other spinners that have been trying out, no one other than Jadeja has a permanent spot in this lineup. So I still think Ravichandran Ashwin has a lot to offer, at least in the ODI setup, if not the T20s. But
Hmm. I
yeah,
think
I
that's
had
where
like
because I think that's where Kaushik's question actually comes in. Would like to hear what other options you are looking out from the domestic circuit to make it to the ODI setup as as spinners, because I think we do have some decent spinners bubbling under coming in from the domestic circuit with white ball in the white ball through white ball cricket like Rahul Chahar and all that there. So what are your take? I mean, who do you think could be making it to the ODI setup quite soon as a spinner?
I
Harshit,
was
what?
I was hopeful we'd get to see a lot of Varun Chakravarti in the series, but guy failed his
Okay.
fitness tests, so that was a
Hmm.
big blow to all of our expectations.
Hmm.
I don't think India would risk going into a World Cup with a relatively inexperienced spinner who they just picked from the domestic tournament from 1 year before. I think the lineup for spinners is pretty much finalized until something really radical happens. They have a bunch, like it's Kunal, Kuldeep, Chahal, Chaher, probably Jadeja and Ashwin as well. They'll just pick two out of these every match. So, and there are not really that many great spinners coming up in the white ball setup for domestic. I don't know. Are there? Like, I haven't really heard of them. I think fast bowlers are
Uh,
having a much better time in the last few years than spinners for sure.
okay, that's a pretty interesting take. Rahul, what's your take on this?
I read on Twitter someone had mentioned Mayank Markande as a option because I think he has good stats in this day. So maybe he is someone they could fast track. I mean, it's possible. Usually IPL throws up unknown spinners who end up doing well and they end up getting fast tracked. Like Varun was fast tracked, but then injury and then failed fitness test. So yeah, but like Harshit said, I think they'll stick to the standard names. If they have to look at someone, maybe I'll just go back and get Ashwin involved again.
Uh, I think we discussed about Ashwin even during our T20 series discussions, and I think it's that's a wild card that India should be think of considering. We've hit the 1 hour 13 mark on our review, and I think that often happens with an India defeat. We'll come to the final section of this of our discussion today. Changes for the final ODI, and Pratyush has asked this question: what changes do you think India should make for the decider? Then Samat Chandelier has asked us any possible changes in the in 11 for the next game. What's your take on this?
I think
Changes that we should go for. Rahul, we'll take you on first.
I think Kuldeep should be dropped slash rested, whichever one is the better word and you probably just bring back Chahal in. But
Okay.
aside from that, I don't think there's any other positions that are. Um, I mean, it might be nice to see Surya Kumar get his ODI debut, but um, it's not going to happen now that middle order the guys are performing. So if there's any other position, I would think. I mean, Prasidh is doing well, so he should get another game. Uh, Bhuvi has come back from injury, so there's no way he should be rested. So I think the options for changes are quite limited aside from Kuldeep.
हर्षित व्हाट्स योर टेक बिकॉज पवित has also asked शार्दुल की टीम में जगह बैठती है या नहीं बट आई
As
थिंक
I have written down a playing 11 here. The
ओके या
fact is,
श्योर
I think even Rohit Sharma got injured during the match, so even his
फर्स्ट गेम में ही वाज
availability, no, he got injured, right around the 37th over today as well. Like he
ओके
was taken out. So I think
ओके
even
सो
if he's ruled out, then definitely I'd like to see Shubman Gill and KL Rahul open.
ओके
Kohli bats at number
यस
3. I'd see a Sky debut at number 4.
ओके
Then Pant and Pandya are my finishes for. Then the
हम्म
5 bowlers for me in no particular order are Washington Sundar and Yuzvendra Chahal, because I think both the
ओके
spinners, after the horrid day that they had, there's no chance that they'd play them again, especially for the decider. And then I'd finish with Bhuvi, Prasidh and Natarajan, because I think
ओके सो you're
India
dropping
lacks a
Shardul as well from this side
Shardul, because I rate Shardul as a much better bowler in T20s because he has a lot to give in terms of batting and bowling abilities. But in ODIs, the fact that his batting won't really come on 99% of the matches that India plays, we don't really need him that much. And plus, he isn't really being a lot help to Bhuvi and Prasid at the other end. He's going at much bigger run rates.
I mean, I was, I mean, I was having a bit of a brainwave. Personally, I had a bit of a brainwave on my way back. If they're planning to drop, if Shikhar is not somebody they're planning to play for the third game, considering his performance today, and if Rohit's injured, why not try throw a wild card in Shubman Gill with Washington Sundar up front? I mean, just tell Washington Sundar, you to try and go out there, have a bit of fun. You're a bit of a dispensable wicket. Because we have people coming in after you, so you can and have three spin and hope that India win. Kohli for once can win a toss and be able to chase. Get India to bat first, so that
That's
can allow them
There's
to.
actually a pretty interesting stat I'd like to mention here. In home
Hmm,
ODIs, when Kohli loses the toss, India wins 80% of the matches. So I for one would
okay,
like for him to lose the match again. Yeah, lose the toss
lose a
again.
toss. Okay,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I think I was thinking that maybe just give Washington Sundar a go at the top of the order. I mean,
It's too
if
radical,
they're
यार.
feeling
Too radical, यार. हमारे ऐसे आइडिया की ना कदर नहीं
Yeah.
होती यार. This Indian management is too conservative and too going by the rules kind of a setup. It would have
I
happened
think
in the English lineup, but our ideas are much appreciated in the English lineup, yeah, not for the Indian team.
I mean, I would
I
really
mean
like,
they should,
yeah, I would really
yeah,
like Washington to end up becoming a top order batsman who can bowl, because then
And he
that's
is a
all.
I
top
think
order batsman, yeah. He
Yeah,
opens the batting with Tamil Nadu. He has a
yeah.
hundred in T20s opening the batting, yeah. He is a top order batsman.
No,
इन्हें
but not
खिलाते
for
नहीं है
India.
उसे.
No. So yeah, India
Yeah,
should.
in the future he can
Yeah,
be. In the future he can be.
yeah. Then that's
so.
your
I
second
mean,
bowling option. Yeah.
yeah, because I mean I was thinking maybe Washi and Gill up front, Kohli at three, have KL continue at four, Pant at five, have Hardik Krunal there, so that you have bowling options as well, and you have an off spinner and a slow left armer, and have Chahal replace, come in for Kuldeep, and maybe keep the same three pacers in Shardul, because I think what he's offering to this team, no other pacer does, of the cross seam, hard length deliveries that can just be a bit of a because I think in the first game he did pick up three wickets in the middle, because of which we won the game, which is what Khurram's also pointed out. So that might it could be a bit of a risk that India might want to take. But like Harshit said, our ideas are so radical that it can only find place in England's setup. So I think we can't do much about it. And then a couple of final comments. शुभम झा saying भाई सचदेव क्रिकेट पैनलिस्ट बनने के सीन बन रहे हैं and he's appreciative of that. Saurabh Sanyal said nice, he's appreciated our discussion today. So we're close to hitting the 1 hour 20 mark, so I think that should be the wrap. India's defeat has given us quite a few talking points from this game, because and it's suddenly made the third ODI worth a watch, because it's now headed into a decider. England want to win, at least want to win the series to try and at least head back home with a bit of positive vibes from this tour, and also pocket 10 more points for the ODI World Cup Super League. And India, for them, it's about trying to just get in few more uh, to try and see where does this approach, how long can they take their approach. So I think that should be it. And Khurram says, "Well done, guys." So thank you to everyone who threw in their questions. I think your questions have helped us build this discussion up even better, and we are appreciative of everyone who's put their questions in. Sorry, we've not been able to answer all of them because we have our constraints as well due to time. But thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Arshit. It is fascinating to get to discuss with you guys. Please follow them on on the socials as well. They're quite engaging personalities to talk to, so it'll be fun to talk to them. Follow me as well on my social channels, and follow MTag on cricket search for them on Google through their website. Then hit the like icon on Facebook, on their Facebook page. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube, and follow them on Twitter because they're churning out some quality discussions across the sporting world through their website articles and live streams like these. It's been a fascinating day of cricket for us, and a fascinating discussion with you guys. So thank you so much, and wish you guys good night. And let's hope that there's a thriller awaiting us on Sunday. Thank you, guys. Thank you everyone.